Hey, storytellers. Welcome back to Author Culture, a quick dive into stories, how they connect with readers, and how we can build sustainable success as authors. Each week, we start with a story, we explore it a bit, pull out something for you to chew on, whether it's something to implement or an action item or a bit of encouragement, and then send you on your way. And if you're a fan of that and you want to continue our jam session, subscribe to this YouTube channel or subscribe on Apple iTunes or Spotify or wherever you're listening to this podcast, and share this episode around so other people can also enjoy the awesome. And for today's story, we're talking about something awful that can happen to any author in any season at any time at any career level, and it can be absolutely soul-sucking. Yeesh, I know, soul-sucking, drama, right? But here's the thing. Things that affect your soul, things that affect your mind, things that affect your heart also affect your ability to write, connect with readers, and continue on in your individual author journey to your finish line. Basically, yeah, your feelings matter. And this awful story can start with someone just saying, hey, you know what? I think you should take your author career a little more seriously. Or it can start with so-and-so in your life had something and something bad happened to them. Or something in your health just kind of exploded and now everything has changed. Or it can be something as simple as, you know what? It's time to be more strategic and profitable. Now, you notice in the above stories, there are some positive stories mixed with some negative stories. There are some explosions mixed with things that seem like they're kind of a good thing, like who doesn't want to, actually break even or make profit with their books. And yet, the story has a bit of a sadder ending. Suddenly, you're sitting at your computer, getting ready to write, or you're sitting at your typewriter, or you're sitting at that pad of paper, and suddenly writing your book feels about as exciting as taking out the garbage or cleaning the toilet or cleaning up after your dog or, I don't know, filling out the warranty on your new washing machine. The ending of this sad story is that at some point, this little switch can get flipped into the heads of us authors, and suddenly writing goes from being something fun and something enjoyable and something we look forward to something we have to do. And I'm using those wonderful air quotes here if you were just listening to this podcast rather than watching it on Substack or YouTube. The story we tell ourselves and the story that we create around our writing changes. It changes from, hey, this is cool, I get to create. Or, hey, you know what? This scene is a bit annoying, but I'm going to keep going with it and see what happens. And, I still like doing this writing thing. The whole story changes from that to, why am I doing this? Or, oh man, I have to get another 1,000 words out today. Or, yeah, I have to just keep grinding at this book and grinding at this book and grinding at this book, and eventually something will happen. And friends, that does not have to be the case. Seriously, unless you're under contract with a publisher, no one can force you to write. And even then, your publisher can't literally hold you above a tank of rabid, ravenous piranhas and threaten you to write the book or else, down into the tank you go. I'm pretty sure that's illegal. And now I'm also wondering if there's some organization that comes in specifically to protect the welfare of piranhas. And so they would come in and also have problems with this whole scenario. Wait, can piranhas even get rabid? Okay, so piranhas can't get rabid. Rabies only happens to mammals. But I'm telling you, if piranhas could get rabid, that would be even more doomy for them. And it absolutely sounds like something that you hear about from a James Bond film or something like that. Or ironically, something that an author tosses in a book and then someone fact checks them and goes, wait a second, that didn't work. But the point is, as authors, we can easily let something as cool and fun as writing turn into something that is just a grind and doomy and something where you just have to slug along and chug along and do the work. And people will say, oh, well, you can't always have fun with it. Grow up, be a mature author, slug it out, as if writing has suddenly turned into cleaning out that really disgusting clog in your drain and you just have to tough it out. And this simply just doesn't have to be the case. Sure, hitting deadlines can be really good and hitting deadlines can be really helpful. And they're really great for, continuing that promise to yourself. I'm actually going to share a link to a podcast from John Acuff about the power of deadlines deadlines. I believe in deadlines, but also don't let them steal your joy in the moment. Don't let them steal your fun in the moment. And you might be thinking, hey, Janeen, you just said that emotions were valid, and I may not be feeling it. Are you telling me that my emotions can change? Isn't that inauthentic? Isn't that fake to actually want to sit down and change your emotions? Friends, your emotions are things that you can control. And I know when we get caught up in writing, and especially for someone like me who can be very, writing is processing, it can feel like the emotions can take the front seat, but seriously, they don't have to. And I believe that in order to preserve your fun and enjoyment with writing, you need to take a step back and understand that while your emotions can be things and you can be going through hard seasons and that can impact things, you can also push back. And you can choose to actually make your continual writing routine something joyful and something fun and something you get to explore. It doesn't have to be a grind all the time, and making it a grind doesn't make you more or less mature as an author. It's not extra points if you get to writing your 35th book and now it's a grind and now it's a slog and you've just achieved that level of success that you now hate what you're doing. That's not a thing. And I get that life seasons are hard and difficult, and that can influence you. Look, if you have listened to my third quarter roundup, you know that I absolutely got pummeled in my third quarter of 2025. It was kind of slightly unreal what happened to me during that time. And now I'm headed into something I call the dark season, where daylight hours shrink and it's just a bit harder to get moving. It really activates my seasonal affective disorder. I'm pulling out the lights. I'm pulling out all of the tea and doing what I can to make it through. I get that. I'm not invalidating that things are hard, but you can still in some way choose how you go through it. And I believe that when things are hard and when the anxiety is up and when all those things are happening, you need to fight for and choose having fun more, not less. I know it's difficult and I know it's pushing through mud sometimes, but it's worth it. And we're not even talking about the news here. Friends, you have my permission to ignore the news whenever you want to. Seriously, I know there's plenty of people out there who are like, oh, you need to just keep on everything. But at a certain point, the human brain can only take so much of all of that. And all of that, being all of the news, people really want your eyeballs on the news so that you can look at their ads. And so, yes, the feelings are real. Yes, the seasons can be hard. Yes, your brain can be against you. Yes, you can have chronic illnesses. I have some of those. But you can still sit down at your computer, at the pad of paper and the pen, at your typewriter and go, you know what? Let's have fun. Not, okay, let's just write this scene I'm going to hate. Not, okay, let's put my grown person pants on and write this story like a grown person. Not, another pile of words, another dollar. But instead, you can approach your story with, hey, what do I get to explore today? Or, I'm curious of how this is going to end. Or even just, hey, I get to sit here and I get to play in this world. Let's have fun. And for any of you psychology nerds out there, doing this kind of brain change, or yes, mindset change, really can impact your behavior. And you can also actually create psychological cues when you sit down that can help you to have fun with that. It can take a little bit of delayed gratification, but it can be something where you can associate sitting down to write with something pleasant, and it kind of helps give you extra juice for that whole let's have fun business. In my case, I have a whole playlist of songs that I listen to either before or during a writing session, and especially that intro song on the playlist, I only listen to that song right before I'm about to write. Now, the tricky thing is sometimes I really like that song. It's pretty cool. I'd like to listen to it at other times, but when I delay the gratification and when I say, oh, I am going to reserve that right before I sit down to write, and then I get to listen to that song and get into that vibe, it really helps me to look forward to that time and enjoy it, and sets me up to say, okay, I have the song, I have the mood, I have the vibe, let's have fun. And there are plenty of studies online that talk about, creating your environment and creating all these different psychological cues to make yourself more excited about doing something even when it's hard. James Clear with his Atomic Habits has taken all this psychological studies and put it into a book, Atomic Habits. But I mean, this has been a thing for a while. People have been using this in classrooms and in business areas and in marketing to sell you things all of the time. So why not learn about that and use it for yourself. Now, stuff with psychological cues and all of that can get into the weeds really quickly and get really overwhelming. So if you're interested in a video that kind of demystifies that and helps you to set up the easiest possible incentive for you to sit down and write and make it fun, please drop me a comment for that. I'd love to do an episode on that. Again, demystifying it and making it concise and easy to implement instead of something where you have to get into the weeds of all the details. But what I want to encourage you to do today is to release cynicism, embrace curiosity, and when you sit down to look at that story, to write those words, let it be fun. Yes, even after you've written book after book after book, and you know that you're going to have to write 3 more books to really achieve your goal. Guess what? You get to write those 3 books. And the best way to get to those next 3 books is to keep going, which means let it be fun. Let what you're doing every single day be fun. Even when you're trying to hit a deadline, even when you're cranky because you're staying up late because you have to get these next couple words out. Now, where the fun comes from can be up to you. I'm a big fan of reminding you that you don't have to write. So I believe that when you're sitting down to write something, there should be some kind of intrinsic enjoyment of it, because even if you're in this to make $100,000 a year, you can make $100,000 a year way easier than trying to crank out fiction books, my friend. I promise you. So let this be fun, even if you're doing it for some kind of job. And part of my intrinsic enjoyment comes from the fact that I am in fact a Christian. All of my writing is based around knowing God, knowing who I am because of who Christ is, and showing up because he made me to write. And when I do it, even when it's hard, I know it's where I'm meant to be. And then I can show up, listen to my playlist, be in a comfy chair, and say, you know what? Let's have fun. Not because of some happy, slappy, fake positivity, not as a cover-up for deep-seated issues or feels or trying to ignore hard situations, but because I know I'm writing for a reason, and I'm going to let that reason matter, and I am going to let myself be curious. I'm going to say, okay, let's go ahead and explore this today. Even if it's not my favorite scene to write, I'm going to sit down, I'm going to play the music, and I'm going to go, you know what? Let's have fun. And storytellers, as you're sitting down today to write or to imagine your story or to think about new ideas, I hope and pray that you can find the fun, because that matters. And believe it or not, that does help you get more words onto the page. So what's one reason you're writing your current story? I'd love to hear about it in a comment on YouTube, Substack, or socials. And thanks for joining me today for this encouraging episode. Feel free to share it around to any author you know who needs an extra pick-me-up. And I'll see you next week for another story and some quick tips and encouragement. So keep tuning in to Author Culture. Remember, your existence is fantastic. Now go forth and be awesome.